Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Unquestionably Raw. This evening we are previewing the Washington Wizards 2016-2017 NBA season preview. Per usual, we've got DJ Gonzo Star, Matt, and myself previewing the Wizards' fortunes for this season. So rolling right in, guys, I want to, like we usually do, starting with the breakdown of the depth chart and player previews. Um, Looking at the Wizards, they really, in my opinion, didn't get much stronger this off season. Gonzo, I'm going to go to you. What do you think as far as who they've got starting and maybe a key guy or two off the bench?
I know. In, Before I go into who I think is starting, it's kind of a shame because I thought the Wizards were one of those up and coming teams. I thought a few years ago they were looking like they could possibly be a contender in the East. With Bradley Beal and Marcin Gortat and John Wall, and it just looked like they were heading in the right direction. It just kind of shocked me how they failed. I was not expecting them to fall this far. But as I got his point guard, I got John Wall, Beal as shooting guard. Small forward, I will probably go with Kelly Oubre. Um, Power forward, I would put J.J. Hickson, and at center, I would have Marcin Gortat playing center. And my two guys off the bench, I would probably have is Markieff Morris. I wanted to put him in the starting lineup, but you're gonna need scoring off the bench. I will probably have him, himself, and Jason Smith, and probably Andrew Nicholson coming off the
Mhm.
bench to be that scoring off the bench. Because Trey Burke, I don't really expect him to do a lot of shooting. I mean,
Right.
he just hasn't panned out to what I thought he was going to be coming out of Michigan. So he's kind of one of those guys you don't know if he's going to excel or he's going to be pretty much the same that you saw in Utah. I'm
Right.
assuming the same in Utah. So
hmm
those are maybe my three guys probably off the bench that I'm expecting to do the bulk of the scoring for the bench players.
Okay.
hmm
What you think, Matt?
Obviously, we know what the backcourt. We know who the backcourt is. I think they'll probably go with Otto Porter at the three, but I actually like Oubre Jr. at that spot, like Gonzo said, because I think you get a little bit more, defensively out of him. He's more athletic. He can't really, he's not as good of a overall basketball player as Otto Porter, but I don't think they really need that from that position. And he'll give them the defense. At the four, I guess it all depends on what Scott Brooks wants to do. If he wants the shooting, he'll go Markieff Morris. If not, maybe he could go Jason Smith. Gortat, I would assume, would start. I don't know why you bring him off the bench. And then I think off the bench, whether it be, I think Porter or Oubre Jr., one of those guys, whoever it is going to be key. Andrew Nicholson, like Gonzo said. And two guys I'm looking forward to if they get a chance. I like Daniel House and Sheldon McClellan. I think they could be really good for the Wizards and
Okay.
provide some good scoring.
Well, that's just the thing with the Wizards. Um, Basically, they have an open roster spot. They've got 14 guaranteed contracts. They've got that 15th spot open that they're going to either use for uh, Sheldon McClellan or Daniel House, or possibly they can go big man and go Daniel Acheflu out of Villanova. I think they probably go Daniel House, to be honest, because to me that's the best player with the most upside, in my opinion, out
Mm-hmm.
of Texas A&M. I think he could fit in well because he could play the two guard and the backup three if need be. Um, Basically, with Marcin Gortat, it's going to be a battle with him and Jan Mahinmi, who came over from Indiana for that center spot. Markieff Morris is going to battle Andrew Nicholson and Jason Smith for the power forward spot. Gonzo, I know you mentioned J.J. Hickson. They actually let him go at the end of last month, basically not wanting to resign him, which I kind of was surprised because I thought they could use his rebounding and scoring prowess. Because I'm not a huge fan of Markieff Morris, to be honest. I know they traded a first rounder for him, so they're going to ultimately use him the most they can. I'm just not the biggest fan. And then Otto Porter Jr., we all saw the video basically, your controller cut off, or however you want to say it, where he got burned on defense, basically staring, and his player kind of went around the court. So obviously defensively he's not the best. Offensively he's hit or miss. I like the upside of Kelly Oubre Jr. better for the long term. A guy that I really like that I think is going to be a sleeper off the bench is Tomas Satoransky out of Europe. Basically, he's being paid $3 million over the next season, 3-year, $9 million contract total. He is very athletic, and he can shoot the mid-range very well and get to the rim. A lot better upside than Marcus Thornton, in my opinion. I think Marcus Thornton's one of those guys that, is basically a chucker, and that's how he gets his points. Not a good look on that team. And, Gonzo, like you mentioned, with Trey Burke being the backup at point, I'm not expecting a lot. So I think Satoransky could actually find some minutes there if need be. But basically that backcourt is sewn up with Beal and John Wall there. Mm-hmm. Rolling into our next question, what are the expectations on this team to finish not only in their division but in the Eastern Conference? What do you think, Gonzo?
Honestly, I don't see them as a playoff contender with all these other teams getting better. I mean, just think of it. You got Cleveland, Indiana, you got the Pistons, you got the Bucks, you got the Bulls, who look okay on paper, but we have to see how this plays out with Fred Hoiberg's system. You have, like I said, Orlando, the Magic, getting a few acquisitions. You got Boston that's gotten better. I mean, you have Atlanta with Dwight Howard and Dennis Schroeder. So a lot of teams have seemed to have gotten better or gotten an acquisition where it could kind of keep them still in at least a playoff hunt. I don't think the Wizards have done enough to say that they've gotten over the hump where they can even slide into an 8th spot at the moment. So me personally, I see them finishing maybe like 10th or 11th in the Eastern Conference the Eastern Conference period. I don't see them as a playoff contender. I don't think they've done enough to improve. And just Wall and Beal, I don't know. I guess it's a lot of things that's going to come into play, but I'll have more to say on the next few questions down. So I don't.
Okay. What do you think, Matt?
I think they could if they stay healthy, because we remember last year they were 41-41. Beal missed a lot of games last year. And they could finish as high as 7 or 8, I think, if things break right for them. They stay healthy. You get some improvement from Oubre. Maybe Trey Burke can be a decent backup. So they could compete, but I think everything just has to break well for them. But as far as their division goes, they could finish second. I mean, okay. Miami, Atlanta, Orlando, they could finish second in the division. I mean, maybe get 7 or 8, but I think things would have to break right for them. Okay. Everything would have to go perfect, I think.
Okay. I think the biggest question mark, and you alluded to it, Gonzo, is what's going to happen with John Wall and Bradley Beal. That's going to be what carries that team. Nobody else on that team is going to be able to carry them like John Wall can, and Beal has got to figure out, accept your role as the second guy. You're not the alpha dog. You need to take a step back and, basically be that complimentary guy. There's plenty of guys that have to take that second role that have been very successful in history. We all know the teams, so I don't have to run through them. But Beal just has to accept, knock down shots, stay healthy. You can play a prominent role as that second guy hand in hand. You don't have to take, a huge step back, but, realize this is John Wall's team, at least right now, and kind of go from there. The thing that I look for with Washington this season is how are they going to handle adversity with their basically locker room leaders in Nene and Jared Dudley no longer with the team. That's going to be a big part for them, because those guys were kind of the glue guys there, especially in the locker room, and Dudley was their best 3-point shooter last season, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. And they're missing a lot with that. You bring in guys like Trey Burke, who basically underachieved in Utah, Jason Smith, who's a rotation, big, Marcus Thornton, who's been up and down the last few seasons.
God, Marcus Thornton is trash.
I hate him. Jan Mahinmi, who's a career backup basically, and then Tomas Satoransky is a rookie. So you're not bringing in any guys that are really overall filling your team gaps that you had last season. That are going to put you basically in that upper echelon. So, not to drag it out, but I feel like they're going to probably end up around third in the division, 11th or 12th, depending on where Orlando is. In the Eastern Conference, I definitely don't see the playoffs. They need a big trade and get some more veteran pieces in there before that can happen. So, what do you guys see as the three keys that will either make or break the successful season for the Wizards? Gonzo.
Uh, the first thing is I think they're going to need John Wall and especially Bradley Beal to stay healthy. That's hands down, and I don't think that's an issue with John Wall. I think it's an issue for Bradley Beal because he stays hurt a lot. So his health. Secondly, the 3-point shooters they need 3-point shooting off the bench, but most importantly, they need to be consistent. We need Markieff Morris to be consistent. We need Trey Burke to be more consistent from 3-point range. We need Marcus Thornton to be consistent coming off the bench scoring from 3-point range. So they need 3-point shooting, and they need it consistent. That's important. And third, I think that they need rebounding, and J.J. Hickson, they got rid of him. I'm just trying to figure out where's the consistent rebounding going to come from. Who could potentially give them 10 rebounds a game away from maybe Gortat? Because I'm looking at Ian Mahinmi. I don't know if he can get 10 boards a game. He's a good backup guy, but can he get those rebounds? Jason Smith, like you said, he's a good rotation big. Hopefully Andrew Nicholson can get them rebounds off the bench because rebound is very important. I think rebound is very underrated, and a lot of people don't think that rebound is important. I think that a lot of teams that are fast break teams and get a lot of points in transition, they're usually decent rebounding teams, and I think that's very important. I think rebound is very important. So health, consistent 3-point shooting in the starting lineup and off the bench, and rebounding.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about it, real quick before I go to you, Matt, is you touched on rebounding, Gonzo, is they were 6th in the league last season in rebounding. And that's going to go dramatically down without Nene being there, without J.J. Hickson being there, because Markieff Morris is not known as a rebounder, and Gortat is going to play his usual 30 minutes a game and get you, 6, 7 boards, but he's not going to get you a consistent 12, 13, 14 rebounds. That's going to keep you, make up that difference of the guys they lost, last season. So, Matt, what are your 3 keys?
Obviously, one, Gonzo touched on it, health, especially Bradley Beal, because I don't think he's had a healthy season yet. I think he's missed at least 15, 20 games each of his first 4 seasons. That's not a good indicator of this coming season. So health, obviously. 2, I'm interested in how they're going to look defensively. Because you look at that roster, Gortat's not exactly known as a lockdown big guy. John Wall can defend. Bradley Beal's not known as a defender. I think Kelly Oubre can get out there and defend. If Markieff Morris he's not a defender. I mean, so it's real. They're going to have to really step it up defensively if they want to compete. And it'll be interesting because I believe in Oklahoma City, they were pretty good defensively under Scott Brooks. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can help with that. And then 3, and I just, I don't want to, Gonzo said shooting, but give Marcus Thornton the least amount of minutes as you possibly can. That guy just comes in and just wants to gun. He has got to be the biggest black hole I've ever seen in the NBA. That guy is terrible. Like, they need to just keep him on, send him to the D League or something. But that's just get rid of him. That's the 3rd key. No Marcus Thornton.
Wow, we got the Marcus Thornton hate on here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys that are that black hole in the league, and Josh Smith being one of them, and he's not signed for a reason. He's another one. that I'm not a huge fan of, but we'll save that for another show. My three keys, I guess I would say the first one, kind of piggybacking on what Gonzo said, is the consistency. I have to see a consistent season with Bradley Beal. And then I want to see consistency with Otto Porter, especially because he's got to step up. Him or Oubre have got to step up this year and be the guy that's that third scoring option. Because I don't think that, you really want Markieff Morris being your third option, more your fourth option. I guess it's okay if he's the third option, but I'd like to see, 14 points a game out of Otto Porter at least on a consistent, basis. Kind of be your third guy. Second point is going to be how are they going to mesh under Scott Brooks being that new coach in there? What is going to be the key philosophy there? Matt, as you said, is the defense going to be Scott Brooks of Oklahoma City? Now, he doesn't have the personnel that he had in Oklahoma City, but his ability to concepts and things like that and defensive schemes.
Absolutely.
Is going to be similar to that, or are they going to take a step back? And the third thing I want to see is them to be top three in scoring as far as overall. And it could be done because they were ninth in scoring last year with Bradley Beal missing majority of the season. I think with guys like Andrew Nicholson being a scorer, if Oubre can come in and score, Satoransky scoring, Beal and Wall scoring, you can get to top three or even four. Because if you look at last season, Sacramento was in the top three in scoring, and they've considerably worse this season. So it's not out of the realm for them to up their scoring. And if you can, outscore opponents, you might have a chance with consistent health.
Yeah, and they can really push the pace with John Wall out there.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. And with Mahinmi, he can run the floor a little bit better than Gortat can run, but only time will tell. It is the Eastern Conference; it can go many ways. And so, going into the next question, what is a bold prediction that you guys have for the team? It could be good or bad. Gonzo.
I see them as a non-playoff team, lottery pick team.
Okay, Matt.
I'm going to make this bold prediction. Bradley Beal plays at least 72 games and is an all-star this year.
Ooh, okay. All-star for Bradley Beal. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that by the trade deadline, they make a major deal. And it could involve, if the season doesn't go well, it could involve Bradley Beal.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think that it's going to last very long. Just from what I've read and heard, that basically, the disgruntled backcourt, so to speak, both trying to be alpha dogs. I think that the team figures out a way to deal Bradley Beal if they can get some young pieces back. Not saying it's going to happen or there's a high percentage, but that's just a bold move I think they could make to get some pieces, especially for the front court that aren't aging, a little bit younger. Get a maybe a young shooting guard from somewhere.
Yeah.
And so I'll kind of go that route.
Yeah. Orlando in the chat, he was saying a lot of Wizards fans are I guess they're saying John Wall is kind of the vocal leader of the ball club, but he's very inconsistent with his work ethic. And then Bradley Beal is more of the silent type with the hard with the really good work ethic.
Yeah, it's a shame that you can't. Shout out to Orlando for being in the chat, but it's a shame that you can't mold those two players into one. You'd have a hell of a player, because I heard a lot of things about John Wall kind of coming in and his work ethic and actually problems with his diet that played a part in kind of how much he wanted to work out and things like that. And it's a shame that Bradley Beal works so hard and then he can't stay healthy. And I wonder, with that stress fracture in his leg, if that's not going to end up trying to rupture or something at some point, because they slowed him down last season, kind of kept him on a minute restriction. I don't know much about, medical stuff. I don't know if it heals over time, if you're relieving stress, or it's something that can linger over your career. But we all know what happened with Brandon Roy and his knees and stuff like that. And I hope it's not something that ends up happening with Bradley Beal, that he has to cut his career short.
And last year, if I'm not mistaken, Bradley Beal got off to a hot start and was really good the first 15, 20 games before he got hurt. I mean, I think he was averaging 22, shooting
he did well. He was shooting very well.
Yeah.
And so, it's all about kind of the chemistry of the team, so to speak. If Beal and Wall can find a way to will that team to some wins, then the Wizards could sneak into the playoffs, but time will tell.
Mm-hmm.
All right, rolling to our last question, guys. Scott Brooks, we all know, came from Oklahoma City. He takes over for Randy Whitman, and I think Randy Whitman, basically his voice just became dull in the locker room. Wore out his welcome, especially with behind the scenes some of his more vocal practice rants and things like that. I think with Scott Brooks being more of the players' coach, I think he can kind of make a difference. What do you think there, Gonzo?
I don't know. I'm kind of one of those type of people that I question what defines a good coach. I think that Scott Brooks looked really good at OKC. Like, they looked good as a defensive team because of the players that they had. Kevin Durant had length, could run the floor. You had somebody like Serge Ibaka who had length, who could run the floor. Russell Westbrook, who has decent height for a point guard. Arm span, could run the floor. So it looked as if they were a great defensive team because they had the length and the size and they had the athletic ability. And I kind of question Scott Brooks has been a good coach. Is he a really good coach? He's a good coach because of talent. What I define as good coach, I define good coaches guys like Larry Brown. Can take a bunch of vagabond pieces, throw them together. One guy who could potentially be a star, and they win a championship.
I'm glad you brought up Larry Brown.
And they can win the championships. A team like Chuck Daly, you really got one really legit superstar in Isaiah Thomas. And don't get me wrong, I think Joe Dumars was a great player, but was Joe Dumars a superstar on the level that Isaiah Thomas was? No. But they took a bunch of vagabond players at that time, Bill Laimbeer, Rick Mahorn, and they went and won 2 championships. A person like Greg Popovich, somebody who you got one superstar, and
I don't. You know what though? I don't think you could that team, the last Spurs championship team. I don't think you could classify anybody on that team as a superstar.
No. At that time, that's what I was about to say. I said, he got Tim Duncan. Well, he won championships with Tim Duncan in his prime, but even at the end of Tim Duncan's career and the beginning of Tim Duncan's career, when David Robinson was kind of phasing out, he had really like one superstar at that time. And even at the end, Tim Duncan wasn't even really a superstar. He kind of took a bunch of, and he went from 2 different eras of winning championships with a bunch of different players, and he won championships with them. To me, that's great coaching. A lot of people say Phil Jackson, he manages personalities. I get what you're saying, but let's not get it twisted. Phil Jackson is an opportunist as well.
He was Larry Brown.
I mean, no, not at the level that.
I don't want to derail the show, so we'll talk about it later. But he walked into that championship in Detroit. Nobody's going to convince me of that.
Nah, I just if you look at Larry Brown's, like the teams that were there before. Maybe I think it was a few years when they had before they won the championship. I think they had Jerry Stackhouse on that team.
But look at the year before, they had the same team minus Rasheed Wallace, and it was coached by Rick Carlisle. Basically, defensive, and so it's not like they were a damn lottery team and Larry Brown just brought them a championship and came in. Now the Sixers, I'll say, defensively. He did his thing, and when he got out Allen Iverson, he did his thing. But he resigned from every team he coached. He ran them in the ground, and then he ran away. But I don't want to derail it, so we'll go back to that. But
So the point I'm trying to make is, I think that Scott Brooks, he's one of those coaches where he looked really, really good at OKC because he had the talent, the size, and the athleticism on the team to look really good. My question is, with these pieces, which are not so good and nowhere near as good as the talent he had in Oklahoma, can he coach them to a playoff spot in the Eastern Conference? I don't think so. All we saw Oklahoma City for years was ISO ball. Will it be that much of the same in Washington? I mean, honestly, I see it being the same. You got a guy who can dribble, go to the hole, go to the cup with John Wall. You got Bradley Beal, who's a really good jump shooter who could go to the hole. But outside of that, what other pieces could you actually make better? What kind of system would you put in place to make the team better? And I don't see enough pieces, but also I don't think he can coach these pieces to being that much better. So I don't think he's going to do very much in Washington. He might be there for 2 years, and eventually they might be getting rid of him soon. So.
Okay. What do you think, Matt?
I think Gonzo's on to something, because I was not the biggest Scott Brooks fan, and I'm kind of surprised because a coach that I really liked, Rudy Tomjanovich. I mean, that we look at that 93-94 Rocket team, like God, they had one superstar and the rest were just a bunch of role guys. He won a championship as a coach with that team. That was not the greatest roster in the world, and Scott Brooks was on that team, so I'm kind of surprised. Scott Brooks is, to me, not a better coach, but I think this is going to be that, the next couple years, we're going to find out if he really can coach, because he had arguably the deepest roster in the league, most likely, for like 3 or 4 years. Didn't win a championship with the deepest roster. So we're going to see if he really can coach. I don't want to say he can't coach, but I'm not going to say he's good. He's a good coach yet. I don't think we really know, but we'll find out this year. Because this roster is definitely not OKC. I mean, you got a similar player with Wall and Westbrook. They're very similar, big guards, very explosive. Neither can shoot very well, but it's going to be interesting. It'll be real interesting. But one other thing, Russell Westbrook, we don't consider him a great defender, right? John Wall is a really good defensive player, so it's going to be interesting how Scott Brooks will use him defensively, being that he can be a lockdown perimeter defender.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be interesting.
Okay. I think for me, the success I look for Scott Brooks is going to be, what does he get out of Otto Porter? What does he get out of Kelly Oubre? Because they're going to have to develop. And basically, how are you going to mend fences with Beal and Wall and have them playing as a cohesive unit? Anything you get out of the front court is going to be a bonus, because I don't think any of those guys are stars. And so that's what I'm going to look for. How do you develop Oubre? How do you develop Porter? And what do you get out of your two stars? What can you do to bring them not necessarily to a Durant Westbrook level, because I don't think that's going to come, but an upper echelon, as they tried to say 2 seasons ago, we're the best backcourt in the NBA, and everybody laughed. Can you be a top 3 backcourt in the NBA even? Because you're not there yet. So I'll definitely look to see what he can bring there. But like you guys, I'm not overly optimistic, because I think it was a product of, you have Kevin Durant, you've got Russell Westbrook, you've got Steven Adams, you've got guys on that team that not only play a pivotal role, but play those roles well, and you don't have that in Washington. You've got Wall as your best defender. You've got Mahinmi as a quality defender, and that's pretty much it as far as defense goes on a nightly basis. So that's going to be the top key. Overall, like I said, 11th, 12th in the East. Just depends on where Orlando and Miami kind of land to see where they're going to land. But that's going to wrap us up pretty much for this Washington Wizards NBA preview. Just want to let everybody know that's listening, we're going to have our Philadelphia 76ers preview next Wednesday. And then next Friday, we're going to be doing another preview show, and it's going to be the Orlando Magic on that show. So we're looking to get Keith Smith back for the Orlando show, and beat writer Keith Pompey in for the 76ers show.
And let's throw it out there. We know Friday 2K16 is out.
Yep.
Don't worry, we're only going to take about 30 minutes, so we'll let you can get back to playing 2K16. We're not going to take all your time away.
Absolutely. And those that don't feel like watching it and kind of blow it off, you can always check it out on iTunes, as you can all of our other podcasts. Go to podcasts on iTunes, type in Unquestionably Raw, it pops up. You can download it, listen to it with headphones while you're playing 2K, even if you want to, because we all know nobody's going to want to listen to Chris Webber and the announcing commentary for NBA 2K. So, definitely check us out. And I actually want to let everybody know that we probably will end up doing a 2K review show for 2K17 probably that Saturday. So the day after 2K releases, we'll try to get that in at some point. Not sure what time. Got to see what scheduling works for everybody, but we want to get that in because we'll definitely be on the sticks playing that game. So until next time, thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next Wednesday.